Is Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator Kellen Moore's scheme a good fit for quarterback Jalen Hurts? That's today's discussion, and it's something that a community member brought forth to me to want to discuss. This fact that the Eagles fan base is a little split between those who are optimistic and those who are maybe a little skeptical of this move in terms of how the quarterback, how the personnel, and how the coach and OC are all going to mesh this thing together. So, to get right to the heart of what I was asked here is, simply put, do you think that Moore is going to be the answer for the Philadelphia Eagles? He then continued on to make the statement that he personally doesn't see it. And the reason why is Jalen Hurts. But he did give a little context here, and it's not like he's down on Jalen Hurts as a player. His context being because he is an RPO quarterback, and I don't like when a team signs a guy and then wants to completely change the scheme, the system, the things around them. He actually went on to kind of elaborate a little bit more, and from what I discerned from it is when you have a superpower, why would you try to remove the superpower away from the player? And I think this is a very fascinating discussion because I'm going to talk about a few things, like what are the differences between read option, RPOs, and play action, because I do think there's some confusion at times. But also, this leads into a bigger discussion about top down to the bottom, right? The front office's approach to managing the quarterback. This is all about managing Jalen Hurts. I think that's what's at the heart here, and it's an interesting topic to discuss. But just like Peyton Manning in the early and mid-2000s, we're going to come out here with a quarterback cadence that confuses a defense. You guys ready for this discussion? Oklahoma, Oklahoma, Oklahoma. I think the first thing we need to discuss here is what RPO really means. Breaking it down by what they mean by run, pass, option, and then how do you identify that stuff on film? Because sometimes it is more difficult to identify than people would like to admit. So the first step is it's a play within its structure that gives the quarterback an option, right? The O part of it, a run, pass, option. Now, when you get a quarterback like Jalen Hurts and you're looking at the run game, we have to factor in that it goes beyond just a simple handoff to the quarterback. Right? If you go back to Nick Foles in 2017, guys, that was an RPO-based offense that they built there. The difference was that Nick wasn't doing a lot of read option, obviously. It's not Nick's strong suit. But he did play to what the defense's leverage was between running the ball or throwing the ball from that. So with Jalen Hurts, I think the first initial discussion has to be around the read option element of things, right? The fact that Jalen does contribute to the run game, and I think this goes to the latter point that Catmandu was trying to make in his post, which is, I don't know that the Eagles are doing the right thing with the way they're trying to manage Jalen Hurts. The fact that they're going out there trying to manage him with a sense of fear, right? A sense of fear if he gets injured, what does it do to our offense? And I do think that's kind of it's a complex issue, but I do think there is some merit to that questioning of are we setting Jalen up for success? Because what this kid is phenomenal at is getting you +1 in the running game and absolutely abusing you. If you start trying to bring down to get yourself +1, he's going to abuse you in the passing game. Or if you don't get +1, he's going to abuse you on just nickeling, diming you for yardage all day long. How many times has Jalen Hurts broken the back of a defense on third down by going off schedule with a play? He's a tough player to defend, guys. He's a really difficult player to defend in the league. Then you flip it and you got the pass side of things. I think the easiest option to show you guys is if you take an NFL defense and you imagine the X's and O's of it, if you take that, that guy who's basically going to play what we call, that fill role. He's the fill role. So it could be a linebacker, it could be a safety, could be a nickel corner, right? To where you're looking to see, are they going to fill down into the run game or are they going to drop out in the passing game? This is called a glance option. So if he runs down into the fill into the run game, then we're coming behind him with an in-breaking route. We're going to throw the ball, right? If he drops back into coverage, then we're going to read end man of the line of scrimmage, EMOL, the end man on line of scrimmage, and then Jalen Hurts is going to make the decision of whether he bounces it outside or they go inside. A lot of times it's inside zone off of those plays. So the question being is how much are we going to see this type of stuff from the Eagles? And mind you guys, the glance option route stuff, it's only one option, guys. This is a very much a small undertaking of a much larger issue, guys. There's way more that can be built off of RPOs than that play. So I think the first thing we have to recognize is that we were already trending downward in terms of RPOs, guys. If you go all the way back to 2021 when Nick first got here and you look at the way that they built this offense, guys, they had 147 total plays according to Pro Football Reference in terms of RPOs, run and passes, okay? They had 95 passes and 52 runs. 2022, that magical season comes around. We're still very much a heavy RPO offense with Shane Steichen, Kevin Patullo, and Nick Sirianni at the helm, right? We have 143 in total, so we do tick it down a couple. But what you do see more than anything is 122 passes now compared to 21 runs. We cut the runs in more than half. That's of note to me, guys. And then Brian Johnson takes the realms. We hear this conversation around Brian Johnson trying to basically help devolve the offense into Jalen Hurts' hands at the line of scrimmage. Okay, he's going to have more autonomy at the line of scrimmage. And that worked its way out to where we went from 147 to 143 to 109 total RPO plays. You can see that trend coming down, and it worked its way out to 89 passes to 20 runs. I think the one thing we can see year upon year upon year is there was a down tick in how often they were using Jalen Hurts in the RPO side of the read option stuff. They were coming down year after year after year on that. And I think that's of note. I don't know what to make of that, but I do think that kind of does go to his point about the front office, particularly maybe trying to manage this whole thing from the front office down to the coaching staff, down to the position players, down to your OC, basically, making the offense with Kellen Moore this year. Like, is it going to be a fit? Are they going to be too reluctant to use Jalen Hurts? Those are great questions. I don't necessarily have the answer to, guys. My answer to that would be simply like, we'll see. Time will tell, right? Got to put that on the film, got to put it on the field, and then I'll be able to tell you what's happening. But the other thing I think that needs to be noted here is that we already saw the reduction in passing attempts as well. Now, you had an uptick in terms of 22. You went from 95 to 122, but then we went from 122 and 22 to underneath Brian Johnson to 89. So there was a big reduction in terms of pulling away from the passing game in terms of RPOs. And we saw a little bit more of an uptick in terms of play action passes, so where we were leaning a little bit more heavily into play action. I think some of this is a misunderstanding of what Kellen Moore's system is, and I think some people are making the mistake of assuming that Kellen Moore does not use a lot of RPOs. And truth be told, that ain't what is shown in the advanced numbers, guys. So if you go back and you take a look at what happened with the Chargers in 2023, you got to take two quarterbacks here because you got Easton Sticks, who plays the last 4 games or so, and you have Justin Herbert, right? So you have two quarterbacks you have to combine. You have Herbert's 13 games or 14 games. You have Sticks 4 games or whatever it was. All right? They had 87 passes to 15 runs off of the RPO stuff. So put that together, it's 102 RPO plays. It's 7 less plays than the Eagles ran, guys. The Eagles ran 109. The Chargers ran 102. So I would say that when you look at this, simply put, RPOs I don't think are going to completely disappear. And if they do disappear, I think it has more to do with the front office guidance more than it does with Kellen Moore. In my opinion, I think Kellen Moore has shown that he does utilize RPO plays inside of his offenses, okay? Now, I think the real question, I think what everyone really wants to know when we're discussing this topic, I think where the money is in terms of this topic, we're talking about the zone read stuff, right? That's the stuff we're talking about. How much are we going to utilize Jalen Hurts' ability to beat you off the ball, right? To get you +1 in the running game and then punish you if you crash down inside. Well, there's 2 ways of looking at this. Number one way is that it depends upon the read. Jalen's got to make the proper read, even inside of a read option, right? If they're crashing down, then of course he's going to tuck in and run. But he's also got to be sure that they're crashing down and they're not playing him. I do think that there were some points on the film where you could see Jalen Hurts kind of misread that a little bit. And then instead of handing the ball off, he would kind of try to pull it back and pull that option play out, and he would get shut down on it. So, there is some elements of that. But also, I think what has to be brought in is they can control the RPO stuff. Okay, that is something that we can discuss and we can tangibly say at the end of the year what happened. We can look at the numbers. We can look at game situation and circumstance and look at the underlying analytics in terms of the downs. We can make some very, very pointed comments about what occurred. However, it's a little bit more difficult when you're actually talking about off-schedule plays. Things that are not RPO-based, right? Things that are not like a quarterback delayed draw. To where, Jalen holds it for a few seconds, waits for the defense to spread itself out, and then attacks in between the guards and the center, right? That quarterback draw play you saw. And by the way, they did that the year prior, too. It's not like they only did that in 23. They did that in 22 as well, guys. So, it's the off-schedule stuff, right? It's the stuff outside of that quarterback draw. It's the stuff outside of the RPO stuff. It's the stuff where Jalen's just making a play on third down. To where you have a progression that's, okay, here's your first progression, here's your second progression. Because we have Jalen Hurts, If your first and your second progression aren't there, go get the first down with your legs. How much of that stuff is going to get pulled back, right? And then how much of the false pressure stuff is going to get pulled back, right? Jalen Hurts senses pressure that maybe is not really there. The line does a better job than Jalen anticipated of picking up the pressure, and then Jalen eludes the pocket. I think that's the stuff the organization is trying to put an end to, right? And it's not because they have a problem with the progressions and all that stuff. They don't want Jalen taking unnecessary hits, and they feel like, okay, we can build in that third option, right? We can build in a third passing option on, and mind you, this isn't every single down, guys. He does 3 read progressions, but very much so, it is part of his game to do 2 read progression and run. Like, that is a built-in facet of the offense at times. That's where I think Kellen Moore might be making a difference, schematically, right? But it's going to be up to Jalen Hurts to get the ball into the checkdowns. He's got to get the ball into the running backs. He's got to get the ball into a tight end. He's got to get the ball down below that threshold, that 5-yard window. That's what you're looking for, okay? And I know we've already talked previously about what he's going to do versus pressure and like having hot routes built in where they just replace, hey, you got an overloaded blitz, replace the defender. Replace the defender with the football, run something in breaking right behind it, and take what the defense is giving you. We've talked about that stuff quite a bit. This is a separate topic, guys. I think this is more so about the off-schedule stuff than the RPO stuff. I think that's what the coordinators, the head coach, and the front office is trying to control when it comes to Jalen Hurts. They want to help build in a third progression on a more consistent basis for him. They want to stop him from having to take as many hits. They still want him to go out there and beat Jalen Hurts. They still want him to pick up that first down when it's available. But you get what I'm saying, guys. Like, it is definitely a little bit more of a difficult topic. All right, guys, I appreciate y'all so much. If you guys enjoy this quarterback talk, let me remind you, I had the opportunity a few years ago to talk to a former Gatorade All-American. He was once called the biggest bust in college football history. It was written inside of Sports Illustrated. A very painful memory for Max Brown, who had to read that, with his father, which you can only imagine, guys. If you want to see that interview, I'm going to link it right here, guys. And also, if you enjoyed today's content and you want to become a part of the Cerebral Football community, then right up here, guys, click it, and that'll take you there. All right, y'all. Peace. I'm out of here.